Hello and welcome to episode 71 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And we're your source for weekly drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
That's right. We're basically just regular dudes drinking some irregular beers, and we're talking about Magic the Gathering, in particular, the online client MTG Arena.
This week is our happy hour episode for Kamigawa. We're just going to talk about our favorite things from this last set before we get bombarded with new spoilers for the upcoming one, Streets of New Capenna. So let's just look back and cherish the good times we just had, you know?
Cherry-ish them?
Yes, exactly. Which leads us to each week we both bring a beer. We drink Jeff's, then we drink mine. Rate them on a scale of bronze to mythic. Choose the best for last. So with that, Jeff, what's on tap?
All right, so fans of last week's episode, remember that we are doing an Indie Alehouse tap takeover. So we tried a couple of their beers last week. We have two more on the docket today. And I have brought a beer of theirs called Fallen Idol, which is a cherry ale. It's described as a tart light beer with cherries. I think light is meant to describe how it tastes more than anything because it's still 5.1% alcohol.
Always love my light beers to be 5.1.
I approve of a brewery that will label a 5.1% beer a light beer.
And, you know, this is definitely one of the ones. We talked about how beefy the last episodes were. So, and what we're getting to later, we'll also see. So, we'll keep that.
Oh yeah,
we'll keep that hidden for the time being. But we have some Magic news. All right, we have a few rebalances in cards for Alchemy. This is happening Thursday, the day this episode comes out, April 7th. We talked all about it last episode. Nothing.
we crushed it.
So we were expecting some nerfs to black cards, and they didn't nerf anything. Nothing is nerfed. We got a bunch of buffs for things I didn't think needed to be buffed, or it wasn't really on my radar. So we'll see if that has anything. It fixes the format in any way, but at least base camp is now going to be playable. So
I was going to say the only thing remotely related to what they did and what we talked about was the buff to warriors. I think they mentioned that they're keeping an eye on party as a mechanic, and they might buff it.
So yeah, I guess so. They're buffing warriors, and then I don't know. Anyway, that helps party like
Elves, they buffed elves.
Yeah, so there you go. But anyway, there's also going to be an Arena Open next weekend, April 16th and 17th, and the format will be historic. For real, it's actually historic. I found the right article this time. So
I was going to ask, what is it really though? What's the actual format?
But, Jeff, we did have a really big announcement last week. The biggest news. Very exciting. Do you want to tell us what that was?
Yes. So WotC released an organized play announcement. So basically that means the competitive tournament scene. What kind of competitive tournaments are we going to see? They told us all about it. There's going to be a pro tour again. You qualify it through regional championships, stuff like that. And the first pro tour is actually going to be part limited and part pioneer.
Whoa! What?
Yeah.
That is crazy.
I know. So this was mostly talking about paper. They did mention that you will be able to qualify through digital play. And they also did say explicitly that they're looking into more ways to qualify for the qualifier weekends than just ladder play. Because in the past, it was almost entirely finishing in the top 1,200 on the ladder. And now they said explicitly, for those arena players out there, there will be other ways to qualify for those events, hopefully as soon as May ranked season.
Yeah, very exciting. I think we're supposed to know at the end of this month what's going on and how digital fits into all of it. And that's also around the time where we're going to learn about the new format, the non-rotating format that's equal to paper in Arena. So this, and with the PT being Pioneer, and everyone speculating that they want Pioneer in Arena, it seems like it has to be Pioneer, right?
Well, there's been a lot of moments where it feels like it has to be something, and that was just WotC doing weird stuff. So
that's true.
You never know.
That's true. Last week did feel like they had to nerf black cards, and they didn't at all. So I anticipate people being probably very upset with whatever the new format's going to be.
Whatever it is, it looks like it should be Pioneer. It probably is going to be something weird that's not that.
Yeah.
And then we're all going to be like, what?
What? So, yeah, we'll see. But In any case, it seems really exciting. Happy that digital is going to be part of this pyramid. If you've seen the graphic, it makes it very simple. It's like, go to your LGLs, play there, do well. Go to regionals, do well. Go to the PT, do well. Go to the Worlds, do well. Very simple compared to before, where I couldn't even explain it to you. So it's been a nice week. I will have to say, Twitter specifically has been very exciting. People are happy for once. It's amazing.
On Magic Twitter, people are happy.
It's crazy. People are getting along. And there are a lot of people talking about
Never
Pioneer.
thought I'd see the day.
Right? So at least for one brief moment in time, for 1 week, we had a happy Magic Twitter. But
it won't last long, don't worry.
It won't. But we're gonna keep the happiness rolling through this whole episode for our Kamigawa Neon Dynasty Happy Hour. Let's get into it. But let's talk about Kamigawa. This is the first time we have come back to any plane for 18 years of a gap. Right? So we went to Kamigawa in 2004. Yep. It took 18 years to come back. No other plane we've visited and been gone that long before we came back. So did they do a good job? Did it fulfill the needs of the people and the high expectations? Just right off the bat, yes? Would you say?
I would say yes. I don't know, like, I wasn't one of these people that was longing for Kamigawa. I thought it'd be kind of cool if they took another stab at it because, you know, the whole, like, the concept was a neat idea. They just weren't as good at executing on top-down designs back then as they are now. So I was always like, yeah, it'd be cool if they went back. But I wasn't one of the people that's like, you must return to Kamigawa. That would be so awesome. So I don't know if I can speak for that population that really wanted it. But for me, I think this was a really successful return to Kamigawa.
I definitely agree. Though coming into it, I think I was really high. And then through the course of playing the whole thing, I had a lot of ups and downs, I think, compared to other sets where I kind of find my thing. Either like I'm super stoked or I'm like iffy. This was like, this day I'm feeling great. This day I'm feeling very bad. And then it kind of goes bad. And then it's like, great again. So roller coaster for me. It's been fun. But so what do you think were some of the best things that came from this? Like, what was it, either in the draft format or like color combinations or anything? What did you like? What did you like?
So I thought all of the flip sagas, we'll get more into mechanics a little later, but I thought those were really cool. I loved that they kind of told a story and then transformed into some sort of spirit that represented a character from Kamigawa's past. And they tended to play pretty well, and like you could pick them up and the creature side with like ninjutsu and replay it again. There's a lot of cool things you could do with them that I didn't realize just from reading the cards. So I think they were a good blend of like really awesome creatively and then also just fun cards to play with. They really actually ended up defining the draft format quite a bit because they were so good.
Yeah. No, they were huge, and that's really big. Like finding ways. I think they did a really good job of finding ways for all the different mechanics to kind of play with each other. Besides the samurai warrior thing, but everything else really worked well. Where like the ninjas liked having the sagas because you could pick up a saga and replay it again, and having a bunch of different ninjas that were also artifacts or random creatures that happened to be enchantments to help you with your different things. That was just really cool. It never felt like a really big stretch to try to find your kind of build around synergies. They just kind of happened to be in good cards in your colors, and it just kind of it felt good drafting and looking at your cards. You were like, oh no, these all kind of work. This is nice. With the draft format, I did start pretty high, and I was in a certain place and figured out green was really good early. And then once everyone knew green was good, you couldn't. It was hard to draft green after that because no one would let you.
Definitely, yeah. I think I drafted like green-white enchantments 5 times throughout the course of the whole format, and it was all in like the first week. Nobody let me do that after a week and a half of this set being out.
Yeah, it just kind of became, oh, sorry, you want to pick green to you can't because no one will let you, and then your deck's going to be terrible because you won't have any good green cards because everyone will take them. Oh man,
It's a nice part about draft, I guess. It's sort of self-correcting.
that's true.
Red was so bad, but eventually people would win with mono red.
Yeah, I thought that was crazy because I did that very early on, just to be like, can I play a bunch of red cards and like do well? And I did, and it was awesome. I didn't realize that it was because red was bad. I thought that was good.
Yeah.
I was like, I played mono red. It has to be good. But it is nice that we've had some unplayable colors over the last year in draft, specifically blue and AFR, and it's not like you could just be like, oh, no one's going to draft blue, I'll play mono blue. Like, you would get wrecked. Like, it just was bad.
It was too bad.
It was too bad. Also, blue doesn't lend itself to like an aggressive strategy like red does. So having red being one of the worst colors was kind of fun because in your pod you have to decide. Like, did you ever play Hearts? Do you know the card game Hearts?
Yeah, I know of it. I haven't played in so long that I don't really remember the strategy to it.
Well, basically, it's like a trick-taking game, but if you get a heart in your hand of cards that you take, you basically get a point for each heart you have, and you want the lowest amount of points. However,
Gotcha.
Inversely, if you happen to take every single heart and you're the only person that has them and no one has them, then you shoot the moon and everyone gets the max amount of points, which is like 23 or something. So it kind of felt like that.
Nice. Okay.
It kind of felt like that where it's like, I don't really want to take red, but I have to take some because I don't want someone to get all of them because they could have a really good draft deck if they get all the red cards. So it had that fun kind of.
Sometimes you try to shoot the moon yourself. Just take all the red.
That's true, yeah. And then somebody screws you over by taking, some key piece. You're like, that was supposed to wheel. Why did whatever? But that was fun. I did like that, and it still feels like there's a lot to explore in that draft format. It just like there's still things that I haven't even figured out yet, but yeah, which is always nice.
For sure.
It's good to end a draft format where you're like, I could come back to this and it could be completely different.
I cooled on it a little bit for a while. Was really into it at first, but that just tends to happen with me with draft. I draft a lot at the start, and then I want to start playing Constructed, and I switch over to that.
Exactly, which is probably a good time to talk about Constructed. Jeff, you were doing a lot of brewing this season. How did your Constructed life flourish through Kamigawa?
It depends which metric we're using. I had a lot of fun.
That's the best metric.
I didn't do very well because I'm just a sucker for ninjas and reanimator and all these strategies that just maybe aren't exactly tier 1, and I just keep trying to make them work because they're fun to play. And then there are a lot of like really strong decks in the format, and I tend to build decks that get every deck I build seems to get owned by the Wandering Emperor, and that card is everywhere. So
yeah, it's a good card. That's a really good card. I do think it's funny because when we started talking about this whole thing back in like our first Sips and pregame episode, we were both talking about ninjutsu and ninjas, and I was certain I was going to play a ton of ninjas. I just knew it. And then I quickly cooled, very quickly, just being like, oh, I'm not doing well and not enjoying myself. And I was,
it's not a very good deck. I've tried everything, unless someone has some secret that I haven't found yet. There's just one card that cracks the code. It just seems like you're trying to assemble a puzzle, right? You have to have the right pieces come together in order for it to be good because it's a synergy deck. And then when you do, it's not even that powerful. Like, it's still not better than the Wandering Emperor. So it's like, I don't know why I'm doing all this work to get something that's like, okay.
Yeah.
So when it all comes together, my deck is pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. So when all this works, they take 3 damage instead of 1. So.
And I get to loot.
So, yeah, I definitely felt a lot of that, which was kind of a bummer. I don't know if we needed stronger like saboteur abilities on the ninjas, or it's probably just the wrong meta with Goldspan Dragon and the Wandering Emperor. But this is we should be talking about happy things. That's more of a sad thing where I was like, oh, I'm so happy that
I
brought
still had a
ninjutsu
great
back.
time.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone will say that ninjutsu was bad in any sense because it's still so cool. But I was definitely playing it in this. It was much more of a draft kind of archetype in my mind.
Yeah, like it. Who knows? It's the type of deck that with just more efficient blue and black spells, maybe it gets there. It's not as good as Rogues was because it doesn't really play at instant speed. Ninjutsu's sort of like instant, but only on your turn kind of thing. So
Yeah.
it doesn't actually synergize with holding up counter magic. But boy, is it fun to ninjutsu in like the 1,000-faced, the
Shadow.
one drop, and then copy the Lord out of nowhere, and you're just like, boom, 13 damage.
That's awesome.
You thought you were taking 4.
Fuck you. That's sweet. It's still, it's still fun to get somebody with that, like, oh, you should have blocked, oh, you didn't block, or whatever. Which there's some cards we'll talk about
Big mistake.
a little bit later, but that was the should you not block stuff in draft was awesome. Like the virus beetle thing. Like, okay, they attack with the virus beetle. Do I block this? Or, there's a couple different cards they can use in blue-black to like pump it or kill my thing afterwards. Or they can just like hit me, pick it, or like ninjutsu in something, pick it up, play it again, make me discard something. It's just, which is great. That's that, and those are the reasons I like pump spells. I like, we've talked about this a lot, and it's in core limited, which is just like, how do you block? What should you block? That makes limited really fun to me. So adding ninjutsu, awesome. Well, should we talk a little bit about some of the mechanics that they brought and where we started off and where we kind of ended up with each of them?
Where do you want to start?
Let's start with reconfigure, because that was one of the new ones that we got. And I was super stoked on this mechanic. So obviously it's fun to... It's the first time we're really... No, that's not true. Sorry, I was going to say it's the first time we're seeing equipment be creatures, but that's wrong. We have living weapons. So it's the first time we have like a creature that like is an equipment, but it goes on a creature, and then it's not a creature, but then when that creature dies, it becomes a creature. So
it's the first time we've seen reconfigure.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, I think I started like very high on this, and I was so stoked for it to be this, like, it just seems so fun and so cool. But in the end, I think I came off a bit. I came off and just like, okay, it's a cool new tool we have. I'm excited. I want them to do more of this, but I don't think I think I was hoping more for a constructed playable thing, and it just wasn't able to get there for me. And I really wanted like Rabbit Battery to be like everywhere.
There's still a chance. Still a chance. Yeah, I was super high on this, and I still am. I think this was a lot of fun. It was a great mechanic. I was thinking of it as mostly a limited mechanic always, other than pretty much Rabbit Battery. Like, maybe I think some people were hyped on like the black mythic rare. Maybe it makes black aggro good or something. But I remember looking through it, I'm like, pretty much only Rabbit Battery could be in constructed, right? Because everything else costs like 4 to
reconfigure. You know what it is? Yeah. It's because I played with Cloudsteel Kieran so much at the beginning, and I was like, sick, this card's awesome, and then I would just keep losing, and I was like, it could easily just be that one card that made me be like, maybe I don't like reconfigure nearly as much as I thought, because I was so high on it at the beginning that I lost quite a few drafts playing that card.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I was just drafting the stupid monkey all the time. I like so many of them all the time, and somehow did pretty well. So it's like...
Oh, I should have drafted more stupid monkeys. I should have played more mono red, honestly. Yeah. But
mono red monkeys, man. That was the secret to the draft archetype that nobody talks about.
Yeah. But with that, we got modified, which I think this is just one of those things that it just feels like an update. It's like when they added mill. It's just like, sweet, now we have a word for this. And because we're gonna see more of this, there's no way they just get rid of modified. Like this will, I feel like they're gonna keep this up. It's to some degree, obviously not as a what is it, keyword? No, is it green, evergreen? It's not gonna be as like, oh, deciduous. I think that's what it's called, as like mill. But having this word be at their disposal as another tool seems really great, and I'm very happy that we have it.
Yeah, totally. That's perfectly said. There's not much more to put. It's just like these mechanics that just describe, like, I forget what they call them, but when you just combine a few words and it's just a word that means any one of those. When they're really intuitive like this, it always tends to work pretty well. Like, oh, what would a modified creature be? Like, I don't know, something that's been changed. It has an aura, or it has a +1/+1 counter, or it has a equipment. Like, just from the word, you pretty much know more or less what it is. So it's not one of those weird things where you have to learn new stuff. It really already kind of just makes sense. And it's just cool to have them have the option to reward you for, sometimes it's hard to build like an all +1/+1 counters deck, or, for most people, they don't want to play an all auras deck. So you have to have more options. And this is just, especially for limited, really, really nice.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, because we recently this last week had Dominaria draft on Arena, which reminded me of Historic, which was the mechanic where you play historic spells. And I had to look it up because I couldn't remember what that meant. I was like, okay, so is Sagas part of this? I can't remember anymore if it was. And so that was kind of one of those, okay, how do I click on the card so it tells me what the mechanic does? Because I turned off what the mechanics do, right? So I had to right click it or something, and halfway through to be like, oh, did I do this right? So I'm thinking that modified, I won't have that problem. And I think that you could easily,
it's a little more intuitive.
It's a bit more intuitive and a little easier to slip into stuff. So sweet. Love to see all those new things. But so we talked about the flip sagas earlier, but this seems like it's the kind of thing that we're gonna keep in Kamigawa. Like, these don't. Some people have said, oh, it might be some power creep or something, and like, how do you go away from sagas that flip into creatures? And I feel like I don't think we're gonna have that problem. I think these.
What do you mean? You just go back to sagas that don't flip into creatures?
Yeah, super easy. And these were so sweet. And every time now when like you're playing against a saga that doesn't turn into a creature, I'm like, phew, oh, that's nice. I don't have to. Oh, that's just gonna go away.
Oh man. Yeah. Meanwhile, at the start of the format, I was like, why do I have so few creatures? And then my saga would transform into one. I'm like, oh right, yeah. I remember that was gonna happen.
I think the last draft I did, it was like kind of Abzan enchantment stuff. And there was a point where I'm like, I only have one creature. What's going on? And then the next turn, like I had just like 2 different sagas flip, and then I had one more that was about to flip. I'm like, oh, nice, 6. Cool.
Right. Yes. Okay, I wasn't as far behind as I thought.
No, I just had to wait.
Yeah, but yeah, totally. I think they could do something like this in the future, but they don't have to, and they probably won't. Like, maybe we'll get 1 or 2 in the next, year or whatever, but I don't see any reason that they have to do this.
No, absolutely not. But with this set, I think it was perfect. They really hit it, and I think with all the balance on it too, none of them felt crazy oppressive. They do have a lot of value, but they're good, and just in a
it's slow value.
It's
right?
slow
it takes
value,
a long time.
And some of them are just like, oh, this second chapter doesn't apply to anything, or okay, it maybe like I love basically the era of Enlightenment where it's like you scry 2 and you gain 2 life, and then you get a 2/2 for striker. It just felt very like altogether it becomes like really great, but like each bit doesn't feel really worth a card. Right. But altogether it's like yeah, that's definitely
especially since the 2/2's coming out on like turn 5.
Yeah, and you're like normally you're like, oh, that's not exactly what I'm looking for, but it still was really nice, especially when we're playing around with like counters or equipment and things. You're like, whoa, first strike is really nice. Especially if you,
nice.
It's real nice.
Yeah, these were great, and I think going forward, it's just another tool in their arsenal of if it's really flavorful to have a story and then it flips into, some sort of legendary creature of some sort, they'll do it again. But it just, there's no reason that this has to be what sagas look like from now on.
Exactly.
I really understand that argument.
Yeah, but there are a lot of arguments that I don't completely understand. So, but we talked a bit about ninjutsu already, which we love, and happy it's back. But it's the kind of thing we can only have every once in a while, and is very specific to Kamigawa. So
no surprises. It was great.
It was really, it was great. And channel, I think they really, really hit it out of the park with channel this time. This was awesome. I love it. I went kind of low to really high on this.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised they did channel because, like we were talking about originally, it sort of feels like double-faced cards, but just a different execution of it. Like, oh, it's a creature that you sometimes cast as a spell, or it's a land that you sometimes cast as a spell if you don't need the land. It's like, sure, we all get the value of that, but don't double-faced cards just do this kind of in a cleaner way? But the channel, just the fact that it isn't actually a spell, makes it feel different enough to me. Like, the one I play with and against by far the most is Iganjo, just as a standard player. And it really matters that that's not a spell.
Yes.
That really matters. So I think, yeah, exactly. Channel turned out way better than I thought. I kind of came in pretty like meh, and maybe like a couple of question marks on top of my head being like, why did they do this? But after playing with it, I'm like, yeah, they were right. This is more fun. Given that we've had so many like double-faced cards recently, it was more fun to do this than
exactly
to just have more
another double-faced card with double-faced like sagas and everything already and like modal stuff. It's nice to see like an easier, cleaner way. It feels really clean.
Saves on text,
Oh, exactly. Always happy when they save room with like not as much text, because I will not read it. The amount of times I forget, I constantly forget that a Ganjo or all the lands cost less to channel for legendary creatures you have. Always forget.
It comes up so rarely for me that I just never remember that. And then I'm like, oh yeah, they can't Ganjo me. They only have 2 mana, like attack and then Ganjo. It's like, wait, what?
Wait, what? Though I do love when they forget that it's only creatures and not legendary planeswalkers.
Yep.
Because they'll be like, oh well, I have my Wandering Emperor's out, so I'll be fine. And you're like, no, no, sorry.
It's always the Thalia sitting on like the far left of the screen that I forgot about that gets me with the Iganjo. Like, fuck, stupid Thalia.
Freaking Thalia. So sweet though.
Yeah.
But I will say, of all of those channel lands in Standard, we see a Ganjo by far the most.
I mean, I play the black one the most, but that just might have something to do with me.
Just want to remind everyone that, sure, Boseiju is great in Modern and Legacy and probably Vintage and Commander and stuff, but on Arena, we're still playing a Ganjo as the most played one. So just,
Boseiju is probably second.
Yes, it is second, but it's not first. But anyway, I kind of wanted to close this whole thing out with, I think when we first were talking about all the mechanics, we didn't talk about the samurai one at all because it doesn't have a keyword.
Right.
How did they fuck this one up? How did they do this?
So the samurai quote-unquote keyword is like exalted, but for those of you that, are as old as me, exalted was just +1/+1 whenever a creature attacks alone. And so they did more of like a, let's get liberal with the bonuses we're giving. It's not always +1/+1. And, but it has to be a samurai or warrior that attacks alone, not just exalted was any creature attacking alone. So they kind of played on the exalted mechanic, and it's just a weird mechanic to put on like an aggressive tribe. Mm-hmm. Like I thought coming in, my theory was, oh, that could be kind of cool. You have a decision. Is it like better to attack with just one creature and get the bonuses, or attack with all creatures? You don't get your whatever, lifelink or something, and you maybe get through more damage. But in practice, it was always just like really clear which one to do. Like, oh, I can only attack with one creature, so I will. And then your default the rest of the time is just attack with everything because it's better than attacking with just your 2/2. Like, it was a weird thing to put on like a tribe that was leaning very aggressive, because it just, the way it ended up playing out was like, whatever, attack all.
Yeah.
My crazy, dual color warrior or samurai is just a 3/3. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
Their ability is not going to come up.
If you if you don't block, it becomes indestructible. So, like, yeah, I do think that the only, like, the cards that were the worst to play against, really, because I didn't really play this deck, to be fair. I just like quickly was like, I don't really want to do that, and I just ended up never playing it. Until playing against it recently when I bumped down into bronze, and I kept losing. I kept losing to the samurai deck over and over again. I was like, oh my god, wow. It just seems like everyone who's in like platinum doesn't play samurais, and then if you're in bronze, they play, and I just completely forgot, and I just like didn't prepare for that matchup.
I don't know what any of these cards do.
I was like, what is going on? The Asari Captain, that the 5 mana white red card that like pumps the one like +1/+0 for each samurai you control, that scales pretty quickly.
Right.
Because in this format, we got a lot of, for limited, we got a lot of like board stallish areas. And if you can just turn any samurai into like a giant beater, that's just like, I attack for a bunch. If you don't block, you lose 9. But if you do block, I guess we trade. Right. And then I'll attack for 8 next turn. And you're like, oh god. That ended up being annoying. But yeah.
They just needed like a trampler. They needed a big trampling samurai or something to make it more interesting on whether I should attack with one. Because it's like one big trampler or 5 little weenies. Like, even the samurai card made 3 2/2 samurais.
That
but
was...
the samurai deck wants one big creature. I don't understand.
I think this... Yeah, that was the dumbest thing. Because Imperial Oath ended up being one of like the best cards in Draft, which is so weird. Because it's like a 6 mana white sorcery. Was it a sorcery or was it an instant? It was a sorcery. And
it was sorcery, for
yeah.
sure.
And it just seemed like such a piece of shit. You know, when you look at it, you're like, this is trash. But then the format ended up being all about like, making sure you had all the creatures were fairly small, so getting 3 off of one card was a big deal.
Right, 2/2s were actually relevant on turn 6, whereas like a lot of the time, a card like that, you look at it, you're like, how relevant are these 2/2s when it's that late in the game, anyways?
It's like
even though there's 3 of them, it's like 3 zeros is still 0.
It's cool that there's a lot of cool things that happen in that draft format. I think that is what I'm probably going to remember the most about limited is, oh yeah, and that fucking 6 mana white sorcery ended up being like one of the best cards.
I thought you were gonna say the only thing you'll remember about the format is the stupid samurai mechanic. I was like, oh, that's a shame.
that would be a shame. I'm sure that if people are like, years from now, when people are like, oh, we're gonna do a flashback Neon Dynasty draft, I'll be like, just don't play white red. Just don't. But or I probably just remember like, hey, red isn't great unless you're all red.
I'll leave you with my last thoughts about the samurai mechanic. This happened to me not too long ago. I actually drafted samurais, and I was playing, and there was a game when I was playing, and I was just like, man, like I wish this card just had Bushido instead of these buffs from the other stuff. And then I was like, man, I never thought I would miss Bushido as a mechanic. This samurai mechanic made me miss Bushido. And then I was thinking, you know what? If I just had like a couple of creatures with Bushido, this buffing the single attacker would be so much better, because they would have such a hard time blocking my Bushido guy, and then I get to attack alone and get all the buffs. So it's like, I get that they're trying to do it where it plays nicely together for like commander folk to build their samurai deck or something. But as far as a limited player, I would have just liked Bushido, believe it or not.
Yeah, and with that, they did give a creature Bushido, but it was green. And why does the only samurai in green get Bushido? And then also it just felt, I know it was supposed to be more helpful and it makes it easier, and maybe some of these cards can go into party decks or whatever, but having the samurai or warrior felt just like
lame.
Yeah, a little lame. It does work better that way, but it also makes me, it adds adds cards to the word. It adds words to the card, which makes me just not want to read it as much. So
But maybe that's why you always lose to the samurai.
probably, yeah. I don't
You
know.
just don't read the cards because they're too long because of that or warrior.
Yep, yeah.
Clause.
I don't read any magic cards. I don't know how to play.
You just learn by association, like what a card seems to do when it's in the game.
Yeah. I also don't I don't know math at all. I don't know numbers. I just kind of guess. I don't count. I don't know how to do that.
I just attack, and if they die after the attack, I win. If I die after they attack, I lose.
That's basically how I play Magic. But with that, Jeff, let's go to a beer break. This beer break is brought to you by our patrons over at Patreon.
That's right. You're already supporting the show just by being a listener, but if you want to support the show even more, the Patreon is the best way to do that.
And when you become a patron, you get an exclusive invite to our after party, which is a mini episode recorded immediately after this one where we, talk about stuff.
Plus, you get to vote on which one of us you like more by buying me a beer.
Or buying me a beer. So go to patreon.com/arenaregulars to vote on your favorite host right now.
Oh, interesting.
Oh boy, Jeff. Do we have something tonight?
Oh my god, it's so viscous.
It's so thick. Oh my god. Oh no.
All right, Zach, what have you subjected us to?
All right. Oh no. Of course, if there is a really weird beer on the menu, I have to pick it. I have to pick it. So this is Indie Ale House's collaboration with Third Moon, and it's called Bequeathed. And it is a pastry stout. I've never heard of a pastry stout before. And it's made with peanut butter, grape jelly, and bananas. Oh no. If you're a fan of this show, you know that my only bronze beer I've really ever tasted was a peanut butter milkshake stout, or I can't even remember, IPA or something. And so I'm really worried about this one because peanut butter is not my favorite thing in beer, and I also don't really like bananas very much. But it is 11.2%, so maybe the alcohol will kind of drown out some of those flavors.
You know, I've had a lot of beers, a surprising amount of beers that have banana in them or like are meant to taste like banana, and I've never liked it. I don't think banana and beer go together. I don't know why people keep trying it. So I'm really curious about this one.
Yeah.
I like the idea of a PB&J beer.
The PB part, I don't know if I like peanut butter in beer, but in any case, this has both lactose and peanuts in it. So if you are either allergic to either of those, watch out.
You might not even be able to listen to this.
No, it's that intense.
It's too many allergies.
Yeah, the picture on the can is a skeleton hand holding the sandwich with jelly kind of pouring out of it. So, all right, Jeff, you ready for the first sip of this monster?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go.
Good luck.
Okay. All right, we can continue the episode. I don't think I'm
already have a lot to say about this beer.
Yeah. Anyway, before we get to that, let's get into some of our worth a slots. We are looking back to our first Sips episode to see which cards we thought were worth a slot in your standard deck, or maybe other decks that Zach just decided we could talk about, and seeing if they were indeed worth a slot or not. Jeff, I'm just going to start. Talking about this home run slam dunk of a pick I had, which is probably the cheapest shot I ever took. But I did pick the Wandering Emperor. I knew that it was a shoo-in, so I just didn't want to be wrong. I think I've been wrong for a couple episodes. There's been a few happy hours where I've been like, nah. So I just needed a win. And so I took one.
I remember, I'm getting flashbacks to, a year ago when I remember you picking Doomscar, and I had to roll my eyes at that one. But this was way more egregious.
And Doomscar's not even that good. So
yeah, I mean, Doomscar turned out not to be that good. But if this one turned out to not be good somehow, I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah, but
I would have had to quit playing Magic because I clearly don't understand anything about it.
But yeah, I took the easy road out. So yeah, Jeff, what was your layup?
All right, I would say if forced to choose now, I might have missed this layup, but I'm still hopeful that there's still time. I chose Thundering Raiju. And I know our listeners are saying, "What card is that?" And that's evidence that I missed the layup. But this is the 3/3 haster that like pings your opponent. Between this and Rabbit Battery, I was sure that mono red would at least be tier 2, if not tier 1. And I guess that hasn't really materialized. I wonder if the removal's just too good for a creature based like aggro deck like that that doesn't have resiliency like mono white has resiliency against it. To really succeed in the current metagame. But I maintain that Kamigawa brought a bunch of really solid red cards, so if we see just a few more really top tier red cards in the next set, this could all of a sudden not look like such an embarrassing pick. But,
I just think it was because mono white was so awesome that it was really difficult for aggro players to be like, well, I should just, if I'm going to play aggro, I should just play white. Why would I play red? So that makes sense. But
I mean, white is just like better against removal because it has Thalia, it has Paulo, it has like
the Wandering
the
Emperor.
red deck's kind of like if you just 1-for-1 them the whole time, the red deck's not in the best shape.
Yeah. My 3-pointer for this set was Oni Cult Anvil, which I also kind of stole from you because I know you would have wanted to talk about that card. So
100% was going to pick that card.
Yep.
But
But it turns out, so this card it does have a deck around it. It's like tier 2 or so, but still around. Rakdos it's in Alchemy. So it's definitely a card. It's definitely a card that's worth a slot in your deck. But I think yours made a bigger splash. Really did. You won this.
Yeah, one thing I'll say about Only Cult Anvil is I still definitely groan. Like it still makes me go, oh, when my opponent goes turn 1, like Voldaren, the 1/1 that makes the
Initiate,
the blood, and then they go into Oni Cult Anvil. I'm like, screw you.
Yeah.
But so my 3-pointer was Hinata, Dawn Crowned, which did a lot of cool stuff in both Alchemy and Standard and even Historic. Some people ported it into Historic, which is cool. I was really hoping that this card was actually going to do something relevant. Like, it's one of those cards where you can see the upside, right? You're like, oh man, you can cast all these awesome spells. It's so good with Shadow Skull Smashing that you want to play anyways, stuff like that. But then sometimes cards like this just kind of like, wah, wah. So I'm glad to see that that didn't happen for this one.
Yeah. No, you were definitely right. I was worried that one would just be a meme, so I try to steer clear from it. But that was a tournament deck.
It has a bit of a meme quality, right?
But there's a lot. You had mentioned it in our first Sips episode, and there are a lot more use cases for that card being awesome than what it just looks like on the face. So it's good. It's really good.
You're imagining Magma Opus, like everyone's mind immediately jumps there. But then the small stuff like Negate only costs 1. Now it's easy to overlook that, and then when you're playing against it, you're like, wow, that's really important.
Yeah, really, really important. Half court shots. Here we go. Of course, I picked my boy. Yeah, I picked.
Did we take any half court shots? I don't remember taking any half.
We
court
did.
shots,
We did.
so.
I want you to remember that we did.
Oh.
So my half court shot was Light Pause, which in Standard did not great, not good at all. I was hoping for like an Azorius Oris kind of deck, and it's not great. It's also probably it is played in Historic, but the more winning deck lists were not playing Light Pause. So I don't know. I don't know about my boy. I like him, but
I think you're underselling it in Standard a bit. People tried it in Runes and realized it sucked.
yes.
So they actually did try it.
But that means it wasn't worth a slot because they had to take it out.
I feel like you hit the backboard, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
not gonna say you hit the rim. I'm not gonna say it went in. But you might have hit the backboard.
No, I think what it was is it was nothing but net, but it was like the front of the net where
Oh yeah, it was one of those.
Yeah,
under
yeah.
there. I make that shot all the time.
yeah, where you talk to your buddy, you're like, well, it was nothing but net, and then they laugh, and then they're like, you're an idiot, you suck at basketball.
But my shot didn't even hit anything resemble. It wasn't even the correct direction. So I chose Spirit Sister's Call, which was the 3 black-white enchantment that like reanimates shit every turn. I knew this card wasn't going to be good though. Like, let's be honest. I just really liked it, so I wanted to talk about it, and I would have loved if there were a world where like somebody played one of these in a tournament deck. You know, that's kind of what my highest possible hopes were for this, and I wouldn't say that I achieved those dreams, but I stand by my choice.
This is me once again saying I really hope you didn't craft any of these with your wild cards, because boy,
yes, yeah. I think I gave that disclaimer when I picked
did.
It. Like, nobody listened to me. Don't craft it.
Yeah, we did talk about that, so it's good to remember that. We've talked a little bit about our overrated cards already. Boseiju Who Endures, I think, was overhyped and overrated at the beginning, and now it has it's very good at where it's at. It's like, yes, it's worth a slot in your deck, but everyone was thinking it was this absurd card that
right.
It's just on Arena.
This is a classic example of, you know, people are gonna like, oh, Zach, you were wrong. This card is good, and it's like, that's not what overrated means. Like, the hype around this card was insane. It was like the best card in the set by a lot for a lot of people. And so it ended up just being good. And so I think you were right to say that this is one of the most overrated cards in the set.
Yeah, it's a good card. I said it was a good card. It will have use cases, but it's not the naturalize in your deck that you think it is. It's an emergency. It's an emergency one, but you can't just use it willy-nilly and be like, we're good.
Exactly. It's one of my pet peeves, people not understanding what the word overrated means, because it'll always be like, you said this sucks. I'm like, no, I didn't. I said it was overrated. Most things that are overrated are good. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so highly rated. You know, it's like, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying that people think it's really good, and it's just pretty good.
Pretty good, yeah. It's kind of like in movies when people, I think I've talked about this on the podcast before, but talking about underrated movies. And most of the time that list is just a list of underwatched movies. It's like, these are movies people haven't really seen, but they're good.
But actually are very highly rated.
Yeah, that are very good. But it's like, no, people just haven't seen it. It doesn't mean it's a movie people watched and didn't appreciate. It means it's a movie people didn't know existed. So that's not the same.
Right. That's not what underrated means.
It's not. But
it means people rate it lower than they should. Unless you think of, like, I've never heard of that movie as being too low a rating, I guess, but that's a weird interpretation.
Yeah, it's just, it feels clickbaity, which, you know, Jeff, maybe we should be a little bit better at clickbaity stuff. You know what? Yes, you're right.
Let's get on that clickbait train.
We should. We should.
Now, with all that discussion of what the word overrated means, for my choice, I picked a card that actually does suck. So that's Reckoner Bankbuster. And when I say this card is overrated, I mean it's bad, and some people think it's not bad. And that includes pro players, so I'm probably wrong. There are a lot, like, I think PV wrote about how he liked Reckoner Bankbuster, and it weakened my position a little bit. But no, I think this card stinks. People are like, oh man, it's almost as good as what's that card that everyone loved? That
Maze Mind Tome. Maze Mind Tome.
Yeah, it's like, it's almost as good as Maze Mind's Tome. I'm like, exactly. It's not even as good as Maze Mind's Tome. That card was awful. So, yeah, I stand by this one. Too many people are playing it. I see it in, like, aggro decks. I see it in control decks. I see it in, like, you know, any deck that has a Wandering Emperor, which is every deck seems to play, like, one Reckoner Bankbuster for some reason, and I can't seem to understand why, because I win a lot of games because my opponent cast a Reckoner Bankbuster that didn't do anything.
Yeah. My stance on it is, if you're not playing Tezzeret, you shouldn't be playing Reckoner Bankbuster. And that's how I feel.
Yeah, maybe I could be convinced in, like, an artifact-themed Tezzeret deck that you want this card, but it has to satisfy, like, everything. It has to be, you want an artifact, you want a vehicle, you want a really shitty card draw engine. Like, you need to want every part of the card, because individually, none of the parts are good enough. So
I guess that's really true.
To be a whole package.
Like, why aren't you just playing Thirst for Knowledge? And then, like, all right, that's it. You know, if you're in, like, an artifact deck like that.
I had the same argument with Maze Mind's Tome. Just compare it to the multiverse card. See the multiverse?
No, yeah. The one from Kaldheim. Behold.
Right.
Behold the multiverse.
Behold the multiverse. So Behold the multiverse, you pay 2 up front and then you pay 2 later, and you get to scry twice and draw 2 cards. You pay 8 to do that with a Maze Mind Tome.
But you gain 4 life.
Or sorry, it takes 4 turns, but it costs the same, right? You can tap it to scry or tap 2 to draw. Tap and 2 to draw. So I forget how Maze Mind Tome works. But I think you can tap it to scry and then pay 2 and tap it to draw.
That's correct, yeah. But no matter what, you put the counter on it.
So the exact same effect takes you 4 turns instead of just 1, right? And it's like, how is this card not just way better than Maze Mind Tome? And it's more vulnerable, right? Because you could destroy the artifact.
Now we know that Jeff doesn't like artifacts that tap to pay 2 and tap it to draw a card and then sack themselves later.
I'm not a J&Day Tome kind of guy, and that was unlimited. You were allowed to do it as many times as you wanted.
Yeah. So underrated cards. These are cards that people rated and then should have been playing at a higher rate. I chose Greasefang Okiba Boss, which I still love and is still awesome. But I think it made a deck. That's what I wanted. I don't think that it's fantastic, but it's cool. And something else. I'll talk about it right now. I'm excited because I was playing Greasefang in Historic with an Esper deck. Now that the Obscura are coming out, we did get to see a charm that brings back a 3-drop creature from the graveyard to the battlefield. So if you accidentally discard your Greasefang, you can get it back with that card.
That's true.
Too bad, Rest in Peace exists and, a bunch of other graveyard hate shit that really fucks over that,
Still has the
that
same
deck.
weaknesses.
It does, but it has an extra way of getting a different piece out of the graveyard. So maybe it could be cool.
Yeah. This is a card, by the way, that I see reanimating Reckoner Bankbuster way too often. Like, at least in that deck, okay, maybe you play Reckoner Bankbuster to loot stuff or whatever, but don't reanimate it with the Greasefang, guys. Just if you have no other targets, just don't even do it.
Don't
it's
play
just
it.
Embarrassing.
It's true. But Jeff, I still think your underrated card kind of feels still underrated.
Yeah, I'm happy with this choice. I chose Kaito, which I think is a good card. And I think you're right. It's still a little bit underrated. People are starting to play this like Esper Planeswalker deck in Standard. It's getting really popular. And it's basically just like Kaito into the Wandering Emperor into Esper shenanigans. And then like all the black Planeswalkers on 5 are really strong. So it's like, Kaito, Wandering Emperor, whatever, Lulth is just very hard to beat.
It's just going to get better.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you can return Kaito with the new Esper charm you were talking about. So, I think people are going to start to play more and more Kaito as things move forward. Happy with this choice. Stand by it. I think it's still underrated, actually, even though its stock has risen a reasonable amount since we last talked about it.
Just revisiting all those things, for the most part, we did a pretty good job. We're moving into our favorite cards.
Not bad, yeah.
So these cards are ones that are our favorites. It doesn't mean they're good or they're bad. We just think they're our favorites. Though most of mine are pretty good because I tend to like the cards that are good.
As do we all.
Yeah, just for the most part. Jeff, I got to pick first for our first sip, so I just thought it'd be nice if I let you pick first for all your favorites. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, so we'll start with Standard. Oh, no, we'll start with Limited. Let's start with Limited.
Yeah,
I have kind of an interesting choice for Limited. You were saying it's not necessarily the best card, but I think it is good. It's just my favorite, and for whatever reason, I always had so much trouble passing a Leech Gauntlet. That was the card that would show up, and I'd be like, fuck, are we switching into black in pack 3 for a 2/2? But I'd still be like, that'd be going on in the back of my mind. There's always that one card that you just love to play with. You're like, that's my card for this format. Leech Gauntlet's got to be my most drafted uncommon. Anytime I saw it, I'd be like, I definitely prioritized it way too highly. Like, sometimes I'd take it even over some of the really good green uncommons just because I like it. And in the end, it was just like pretty good. But I just love this card.
Oh, Leech Gauntlet is sweet. And also a big, like, really great for configure, just because you're like, oh, I'm going to gain life forever. If you're in this weird race, you're like, oh, I'm going to be fine. Strong card.
I think it just won me so many games like in the first week, and that was above expectation. Like it was just performing above its standard, and I just associated it with that really high bar, and then just always took Leech Gauntlet. And it's also just like a cool card. I think I like Reconfigure as an ability. The idea of this like gauntlet that drains life that you put onto some ninja is always really cool. So
that kind of feels
a sweet card.
Kind of feels like the black suit in Spider-Man, like the alien one, just jumping onto different people and like sucking their life. That's cool. I like that. My favorite limited card is a card I actually didn't really play with at all, but it happened to be my favorite because I was just so excited that this card could be good or in your deck in this format, which was Suit Up.
Nice.
I always thought these effects were really interesting, of like a weird pump spell that like just changes your creature's power and toughness, especially when there's +1/+1 counters around. It's kind of funny when it's like is bigger than the card says it will be. And it turns out that you just need to draw a card at the bottom to make this card a lot better. But it's always one of those...
Yeah, that really changes things.
Yeah. So, anytime there's a pump spell that says draw a card, do you know how I liked that 1 mana red one that was +1/+0 and trample and draw a card from Crimson Vow? But like, it got really better if you had a bunch of them. But anyway, pump spells...
You know how much I loved that blue wizard one from Zendikar Rising?
Yeah.
Gave like -2/-0 and draws a card.
So,
yeah, baby.
Yeah, it's fucking great. I just loved that this one was the Transmogrify-ish type. It's not Transmogrify, but it makes it seem like it in my mind where it's like attacking and then turns into something else. I just thought that...
I thought for sure you were going to choose Dragonfly Suit, but...
I was so close. I was so close to picking Dragonfly Suit. But I decided, you know what, I should pick a card that I actually like respect on any level.
Or maybe Cloudsteel Kieran would have been my next guess. But Suit Up makes sense.
Suit Up. Jeff, let's go to Standard. What was your favorite Standard card?
All right. Standard, there can be no... I didn't really have a choice. I have to choose the card that I've been having by far the most fun with. And some of the most fun I've had in quite a long time. So kudos to this card. And that would be Invoke Justice. So this is 1 white sorcery. And it returns a permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And then you get to put 4 +1/+1 counters. Just put them all over the place. Pairing this with the Lorehold Dragon. It's just sweet because you get a 9/9 flying haste vigilance that casts a spell off the top of your deck with mana value 9 or less. And that's just been a great time. Even if the deck is not that good, I'm just having a great time with it. So... this card is sweet. I love Reanimator, and this is a fun version of it. I like that it feels white because it can return any permanent, so sometimes I get the Wandering Emperor. I have a Battle of Frost and Fire as my sweeper that sometimes I get back and wipe the board. It's just a good time.
That's sweet. That's so cool. I also love that you picked a super white card. Like, you have to be so white. It's the whitest card.
I don't know if I've ever picked a white card as my favorite ever, let alone quadruple white.
I don't know if you've ever picked a white card for anything we've ever talked about ever.
Yeah, if I've ever even mentioned a white card. Other than the Wandering Emperor in every episode since it's come out.
That is true. But yeah, that's sweet. I definitely want to see that list. I haven't seen it yet, so I've been waiting for you to brew with it. I'm excited to see the upgrades with the next set. So if it's multicolors,
yes,
it's going to be a lot easier to cast some things too, I think. So it can probably get some...
Yeah, it's super greedy. I'm trying to play like Expressive Iteration, which is blue-red. And then also 1 white. And it's maybe a little greedy.
Well, as soon as we get the new Triomes, it'll be a lot easier. Sorry, the new Tri-lands or the new whatever Jet Mirrors.
There's no Jeskai one, right? They already had that one.
There's no Jeskai one, but you get to play. That means you get to play all the other ones instead.
Yeah, that's right.
And just add more colors. Why not? For standard, I think it's probably fairly easy to see that Kami of Transience was my favorite card. Being able to slot right into an Aura's deck in standard. I loved Runes when that came out. It was so much fun. And that's it's a nice card, very resilient as well, having that extra ability to come back after it gets killed or if something else gets killed with an Aura. So nice. So, yeah, go tall, everyone.
Yeah, that's a good choice. So let's move on to Alchemy. I had kind of a tough time with Alchemy because, as you know, I heard someone say it's a bit of a dumpster fire. I couldn't agree more with that. And so I'm trying to think of when I played Alchemy a few weeks before it really went down the drain in terms of you always play against the same thing. And then once I did that, there were actually a few different options for what I could choose. I think in the end, I just have to go with, kind of following in your footsteps here. I picked Jukai Naturalist, actually.
Okay.
Just because this deck kind of started in Alchemy, and then everyone realized it was just a standard deck. And so they ported it over to standard, which I think is really cool that it started in Alchemy. It was beating the stronger Alchemy decks, and then people were like, wait a minute, there are no Alchemy cards in this. And so they just started playing it in standard. And this was sort of the deck to beat before Black Midrange completely took over in Alchemy. So this card, along with, your pick and a few others from this set, really helped shape the metagame of both standard and Alchemy. And so I picked just like this card a lot too. It's just clean design, 2/2 lifelink, makes stuff cheaper.
It's great.
Nice.
Oh, I love it. It's that's a good one. Also close to my heart with the enchantment stuff. Really fun. My pick for Alchemy kind of leans into what happens to Alchemy. So I picked a card that I definitely wrote off early in the set, being like, "Oh, that's just a fun callback, but it's not that great." Ends up it's amazing in a lot of different formats, and it showed up everywhere. And Fable of the Mirror Breaker is a really good card, turns out, and that just ended up being my favorite because it seemed like an outlier to me of this this is a card that I love Kiki Jiki. I just always thought that was so cool. And I was playing it fair when I was a kid. It was just make one thing a turn. We're not doing any infinite stuff. And just trying to enable extra ETBs. And that's basically what these Alchemy decks were doing. I was like, hey, I'm just going to make you discard every turn. Or I'm making more City Stalker Connoisseurs every turn. And it was just... It impressed me a lot more than I thought it was going to. I just thought it would be oh, that's cute. But no, it's good, and it's good in a lot of different formats too. So
most messed up thing I've seen is Town Razor Tyrant. Getting Town Razor Tyrants at every turn is rough. That's rough, but exactly the kind of thing that I would want to do to somebody. Yeah. No, I thought about that card too. It's a good choice. It's a perfect example. It's so sweet.
Yeah, and it also just feels like it came out of Alchemy in a weird way. But anyway, our favorite format that we play all the time and know everything about and love. Historic, Jeff.
Sorry, what format?
Oh, it's like that mechanic from Dominaria, but it's a format. It's just every card on Arena. Do you know? Are you familiar?
Oh, you can only play cards that are historic. So you can only play legendaries, artifacts.
No. I think that's Historic Brawl. This is just historic. This is just regular.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In Brawl, that's what they make you do.
So a lot of good options for this one too, actually. Although I will admit that I did not play a ton of Historic. I played a little bit because we wanted to talk about it before the event. I played the best deck in the format, of course, the blue-black combo deck. So I don't know if I can make an informed decision based on the breadth of the Historic metagame, because I don't know what people are actually playing. All right, so my choice was Takenuma, Abandoned Mire. I felt like I had to get one of these lands in here because these lands are pretty cool. I didn't want to be the guy that picked Iganjo or Seiju, so this felt like the appropriate time to slot in Takenuma. especially because in that blue-black combo deck I was talking about, you can only play one of each land. So anytime you get like a new addition, like the deck just plays off-color pathways that are literally just black lands. And so anytime you can upgrade one of those to a land that might do something at some point, that's always fun. So it also gives the deck a bit of much needed get my Jace back if I somehow lose my only win condition. So that's always a nice little thing to have access to. So this is the card I played the most of because I played one copy of it.
Hey, there you go. I played 4 copies of the card I'm going to talk about, but I am double dipping when we go to Historic. So, of course, I'm just going to bring back up Greasefang Okiba Boss. Oh, he's my favorite Historic card.
Yeah.
He made a whole deck.
Could have seen that coming.
Yeah. I thought you would have known. But he made just a different strategy. I'm happy that he's part of the format or meta, kind of. But the most interesting thing with that was just it started out Mardu, turned into Esper, I think is probably the better choice, especially with the new cards we're getting. So, sweet. Maybe I'll play more Historic. Though we are getting a new format, so I'll probably playing whatever the new format is. That's really hard to say. Yep. Jeff, what was your favorite art?
Okay, so this one is always one of the hardest ones because there's so much good art in every set these days.
So good.
Yeah, they're so talented. But the one that always just jumps out to me, because I don't know what it is about it, I just love it, is Dockside Chef. So this is the one where it's like a chef holding out a big bowl of ramen, and that bowl happens to have like an eyeball in it, by the way, but otherwise it looks like a fairly normal bowl of ramen. And then there's all these like ghost hands like reaching in and with chopsticks and just like pulling, like eating from this one bowl that the guy's holding. And in those chopsticks is more like gross stuff, like one of them has a tongue or whatever. And I just love his smirk face, like one eyebrow raised as he's holding out this big ass bowl of ramen. Like, yeah, I killed this. I just think the style of it is really well done. Like, sort of blending the line between serious, because it's not drawn in like a humorous way, but there's still some comedy in the art. I just really like this piece.
I also enjoyed that as well. Just because he's kind of in the story too. There's like a bit in the actual like story of it where you see him. So he just seems like a fun chef for ghosts almost. It's kind of funny because the card seems like it's killing the things to feed people. So it's like, there's the eyeball in the soup, right? So does he kill people and make you eat people? Is that what's going on? I don't know.
It seems like that's what's happening.
So with my favorite art, it is you mentioned how difficult it is to figure this out because there are so many different alternate arts for things, and all this. There's just a lot of really good art in the game right now. So we're living in a wonderful time. I'm gonna pivot. I had one picked, but I saw this other one earlier and was like, you know what? I think I might pick this instead. So it's the neon frame version of Invoke Despair, which normally Invoke Despair is kind of like this purple wave coming on these people. And the one in the neon version is like, it's almost like this guy is, he's like picking up a wave, and it's in this old art style, which kind of looks like the ancient Japanese art style, and like a piece of the wave has like a claw and he's kind of like pushing it, or maybe he's getting grabbed by it. No, that's what it is. He's getting grabbed by this wave.
It's like a fist.
Yeah.
A wave fist.
It's like this wave fist thing. But it just really, it feels very stylistic in a nice way. There's a lot of cool futuristic stuff in this set, but this one brings me back a little bit. So I really liked Invoke Despair.
Yeah, that's a really good choice.
I do want to have an honorable mention. I've seen some stuff just talking about how shitty the new lands look, the Japanese ones, for some reason. I don't know where this came from. I thought they looked amazing. So I just want to say, hey,
what?
These are the coolest fucking lands ever. Are you kidding? Don't be coming out here.
Yeah, I really like them.
These were easily, like, I would have picked them if I could pick one, but they're all really cool. And they all seem very clear. So I don't
And I
know.
love how it carries through the theme of like tradition versus technology. Like there's always one that's like old school,
I didn't
planes, and
even
then the
notice
next one
that.
is like the new city version.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I don't know who's hating on these. These are awesome.
There's, choice members of the old pro community who have said a couple things where I'm like, nah, I don't know if I agree with you on that one, but
I almost bought some of these, but then I was like, I have enough awesome basic lands to go with.
yeah.
Although I think these were like these were so cool that I almost spent needless gold on them.
If these come back in on a sale or something, I'll probably get them. But I think the first
Exactly,
it was like,
that's what I was thinking too. Maybe I'll wait and get them on sale.
yeah, because it was like 25,000 gold, and I was like, oh, that's like 2.5 drafts.
That's so much.
That's so much. I can't do that. But all right, Jeff, this last one, we have a new one for this happy hour. What was your favorite card name?
Favorite card name. All right. Well, I've had this one picked since I read the card. I don't think I've ever actually played this card.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. Maybe I did in limited. Maybe. But I don't know if I've ever actually seen this card get played. But I picked You Are Already Dead.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I read that, I'm like, you know what? I love that. This is a great card name.
It's so good because it also like helps you in the picture where it's the moment of you've been sliced and you're about to slide in half,
Right, and then the like upper half body slides down
Mm-hmm.
to the lower half, like in those, anime or cartoons or whatever.
There's like
The
a
ninja goes through
Mhm.
and then the body just slowly slides off. That's exactly what they've done here.
it's so good. And this is one of the cards I was talking about earlier where, it's fun in the ninja deck where it's like, oh, when I attack with my virus beetle, do you block and then you're already dead, or
That's true, yeah.
or is it going to suit up, or what's going to happen? I don't know. No, this card, the name is amazing, and I hope that it can stick around and like be played in decks because it's so funny. But yeah, I knew you were going to pick that one, so I came up with a backup. So my favorite card name from the set, besides that one, is just Farewell. I love the name of just like, oh, we're going to exile everything. Goodbye, farewell, have fun. It's gone forever, don't get it.
I think I just have too many negative associations with getting farewelled right out of the game. Every time I see that card, I'm like, farewell. God.
Yeah, god damn it. But with that, Jeff, I think we're coming out of our happy hour and go into last call. So, do you have any last thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, it's rare these days that Wizards makes a set I don't like. That was the thing that actually used to happen to me in the past, where I'd be like, I just didn't like that set, and that's okay. I don't have to like every set.
Mm-hmm.
But they've gotten so good at, giving you so much to like. There's the mechanics, and then there's also the flavor, and then they have really flavorful cards that they execute on, and then they try to do some cool stuff for Commander players. They try to do some stuff for it's going to impact Standard, and it's so rare these days that I come out of a set saying, yeah, I just didn't like anything about that. They give you so much that you can like. But I really thought this one kind of stood out for me as just being a really good blend of a good amount of cards that I could brew with, good number of cards that I just liked. Limited format was pretty good, and the flavor was obviously off the charts. That's kind of the point of the set. And when all that comes together, I think we had a real winner on our hands here.
Yeah. No, I agree. This one, we don't always say this about sets completely, just like pieces of it, but this one felt like a home run slam dunk to me. Like,
Yeah.
There's like the little nitty gritty things of like the warrior stuff, which some of those decks still came together. But I think that
you still lost to them all the time. So.
yeah. Well, recently, not always, but recently, which is kind of makes me think about like maybe I just suck at everything. Maybe I am that play. Maybe my draft is okay.
I can't even beat samurais.
Yeah, I can't even play. But yeah, so but with that, yeah, I think coming out of the last three sets, you know, there are things I really liked about them, but there are also some stuff that I was like iffy about. This one felt really at home. I felt very. I think it could easily be all the nostalgia, but there's a lot of things I liked about it. The story was really good. Besides the samurai part of the story, that was weird, but the rest of it was good. The samurai part of the draft was weird, but everything else was really good.
When that samurai like runs in alone, even though there's hundreds of samurais there, and just gets obliterated. And
Yeah.
the next samurai runs in alone.
Yeah.
They're like, that's our way.
Yeah, we just one at a time. So yeah, I think figuring out a good samurai mechanic is still kind of on the list of things to do, but with
And I think they knew they didn't have it because they didn't keyword it.
Yeah.
Right? So it's sort of like they knew that this wasn't the strong point,
and they didn't really talk about it that much anyway. So, but besides that, everything else, I really enjoyed this whole season, and I'm sad to see it go. You know, some of these happy hours feel like they come up a little fast. This one is at a very normal pace, and it still feels kind of sad. Like, oh, we're already leaving. I really liked Kamigawa. So,
totally.
but
And they didn't pull their punches. You know, they took some risky plays with this one in terms of the mechanics they pushed and stuff like that. Like this wasn't them just kind of phoning it in, playing it safe, I guess is the expression I'm looking for.
they brought back.
They knew that we wanted crazy shit with Kamigawa, and they delivered that.
I mean, don't forget they brought back Phyrexian mana, like.
Yeah.
For one card, but still, they figured
I
out.
I actually did forget that until you just said it, but haven't run into a ton of Tameo. But
Exactly.
I think that card's okay. You could play Tameo.
It's okay, but I think they did a good job of like, oh, this is what we could do with Phyrexian mana. It's like, oh, there's something bad happens. Almost seems like a weird Amonkhet thing where it's like, oh, this creature comes into play with -1/-1 counters on it if you paid your life. But anyway,
Right.
With that, let's go to last call. Let's talk about some beers. Let's rate these beers with these weird ones. We got some weird ones this evening. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I don't even know what to think here. So.
I don't either. So let's just talk about the rating system before we get into it.
Yeah, let's stall.
Yeah, just stall just a little bit. Pump the brakes. As always, we are rating our beers on a scale of bronze to mythic, which is the same as the tiers in Arena. Huh. Weird. How did we do that? It's just funny how that works out. This always has nothing to do with which tier you personally are in. So if we say something negative about the tier you're in, it's not about that. It's about having fun rating beers. Everybody's in different tiers. I'm in bronze in constructed right now, so like it doesn't matter.
I'm probably in bronze and limited. I don't even know, but I must be because it's been a while.
Yeah. Whenever there's a reset, you go down. Hey, that's how it works. But with that, bronze beers are trash, just like me, apparently, because I can't read any cards. And bronze beers are so bad that you cannot finish them and you have to pour them out and actually just like get them out of your sight.
Silver beers, these are like meh. You know, they're basically just don't have anything going on. Macro brews tend to fall into this category.
Gold beers are fine, but you won't probably drink them again.
Yeah. Platinum beers are good. They're solid. You would drink this again. But, you know, you're not going to go out of your way.
Diamond beers are exceptional. You love them, you like them, and you would recommend them to your friends.
Yeah, and mythic beers, best of the best. These are your top 10, your top 5, whatever. You'll talk about them to whoever will listen, and even some people who really don't want to listen.
That's right. Jeff, do you have your beer chosen for the evening? I'm having a hard time, but I think I know which.
Yeah, I actually don't. They're just so different. They're so different.
They're very different. I think I'm just gonna pick one, and then if I rate the other one higher than the one I picked, then so be it.
I like that plan. You know, just like gut instinct. Let's just pick one, and then like. You rate the one you picked like silver and the other one diamond.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Maybe. I mean,
picked the wrong one. I could be talked into a lot of things on these ratings, so I think I'll pick. I'll just make a choice.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Bequeathed. Bequeathed.
Yeah.
Sorry, bequeathed.
No.
All right. So, going into this, I was most excited for this peanut butter jam jelly, grape jelly, banana sandwich pastry stout.
Yeah.
And coming out of it, it is the one I picked, obviously, because that's what I said in just a second ago. But Jeff, I mean, do you want to talk first? I can always talk first if you're just kind of like processing.
Yeah, I was also excited about it. It made me wonder, do people put bananas in their PB&Js? Is that a thing that I'm like missing out on, but everyone else knows about?
I think it's
Or is this just...
I think it's a thing. I don't know if, in my experience, it's a replacement for jelly. It's bananas instead of jelly.
I see. Yeah, I've heard of peanut butter and banana as a combo, right? Like,
Yeah.
just spoon some peanut butter onto a banana or whatever.
Sure.
So maybe that's what they were going for. It's just peanuts and banana work, and then peanut butter and jelly works.
I mean, like,
Worry about jelly and banana.
I've heard of peanut butter banana sandwiches before.
So the cool thing about this beer is that it hits you in waves. So when you, at least for me, when I drink the first sip, I get jelly almost immediately. For me, it's like jelly's on the front, and then peanut butter's on the back, and then it kind of morphs into banana, like near the end for me, which I found to be really cool, and less like, whoa, what the fuck, than if it was just all at once, or if it was all muddled, because I thought that would be weird. And so I don't know if that's intentional, and that's just the way I'm
Tasting it?
experiencing it. And how much of that is like me knowing what 3 flavors I'm supposed to be tasting. And so it's like my brain is looking out for those flavors and trying to identify it when it sees them. But I did, the first sip definitely was just that for me. And I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah. It's interesting. I did not taste the banana or the jelly. I just tasted the peanut butter.
Okay.
But it tasted like roasted nuts, which seems to fit well with the stout to me. It tasted like roasted nuts and alcohol, and kind of like, a stoutiness. But I missed some of the other flavors. So, and like I was saying before, I thought maybe the alcohol would overpower things for me. So I think that possibly happened. But also, like, I liked it. I was happy that, yeah, I enjoyed drinking the whole thing. I drank quite a bit of it. I'm almost completely done. So
I liked it too, if I didn't say that. The banana is really subtle for me at the very end. It's like as the flavor's like dissipating, I get this hint of banana.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good way to handle banana in beer. Because I was saying earlier, like, some people, when I take a sip of beer and it also tastes like bananas, and it's just like, this sucks. Stop trying to put banana in beer, and also stop trying to put like jalapenos in beer to all the people that do that. It's never good.
Yeah. It's just flashy.
But having the bananas like a subtle aftertaste was nice. Actually.
Yeah. Especially for me, because I couldn't really notice that much at all. It wasn't like, remember that I gave you like a banana oatmeal milkshake thing for, it was like a blueberry oatmeal banana milkshake for the,
Yeah.
what's it called? When I owed you a bunch of beers for the Weird 2-4.
Right.
That beer.
When I won fantasy.
And when you won fantasy, yeah. That beer was like very banana forward and like weird and like, ugh. So.
Yeah, that's one of the banana beers that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I say stop trying to put banana in beer.
But no, I liked this one. It was a cool collaboration. I wonder who decided that we're gonna go in such a weird direction. If it was Third Moon, maybe we should go over to Third Moon and get some beers from them.
Yeah, maybe now it's time to bounce over to Third Moon.
That'd be kind of interesting.
When we were talking about it, like when we were introducing the beer, I was gonna say this beer feels like it's one of those beers that's either bronze or mythic. Mm-hmm. But I didn't end up saying it because I was like, what if it's not? And I think I'm glad I didn't say that because I don't think it's either of those things.
No.
So in the end, it just kind of falls into the typical spectrum of like good craft beer, where it's like maybe in that platinum diamond range. But I'm happy to give this a diamond for being really adventurous and executing pretty well on it.
Okay, I'll give it. I'm with you. I was going platinum in my mind, but I'll give it diamond because this is the only beer I've ever had peanut butter in that I actually liked it because of the peanut butter. I was like that.
Right. I want to encourage risk taking.
Yes. I think they did a good job with.
And I know if I give it platinum, they're going to listen to that and be like, "Well, fuck us for trying.
Yeah.
Let's just make a red ale, and he'll love it."
Well, that's true. I mean, we will. But no, I think, and going in my mind specifically to the roasted nuts fits better with like roasted coffee and like chocolate in a stout than trying to make it like a creamy thing. I don't know. It has a Reese's.
Yeah, that's a good call out too. It doesn't really taste like peanut butter, but you definitely get
peanuts. Yeah.
Like you get roasted peanuts. Yeah.
Wait, is this one from left field? Because they are doing baseball stuff, so roasted peanuts, that kind of thing. Anyway, Diamond.
Where's the baseball pair? I was missing that.
Yeah, with that.
Looking for the ballpark pairing.
But the Diamond beer for Bequeathed, really surprised by that. I thought that was going to be our first bronze, honestly. I was really coming into it.
Yeah, I was like 50-50 on whether it was going to be bronze.
Yeah.
I think it's either awesome or garbage.
But Fallen Idol, the light beer with cherries.
It had kind of that champagne thing going on. I don't know if it was actually using champagne yeast, but we had a beer on here before that actually used champagne yeast.
Yeah.
It had this very bubbly sort of champagne-like thing.
Like really small bubbles, right?
And I liked it. I liked it in this too. It's not, exactly. It's not just more carbonated. It's like a different kind of carbonation.
Yeah. It's like a Perrier versus soda water. It's like the bubbles are smaller.
Right.
I thought when they said light beer, they were right. It was a light beer. There were cherries, but it was a little tart, so it had like a light sour quality. But I did like it.
Yeah, it was well balanced. I didn't expect to like it that much necessarily when they said a light cherry beer, but just kind of well made for what it is. Exactly like you said, a little sour, a little tart. Got that sort of champagne flavor to give you or build so that it gives you something, so it's not just like bland, and it worked well.
Yeah. I think, and with that being said, it probably of all the beers we tasted from Indie Ale House, it might have been my least favorite. But with that being said, it's probably platinum. I liked it.
Yeah, I think this one's pretty solidly platinum.
Yeah, feels good. Cool. Good beers this week. I was worried.
Nice.
There was a moment I was like,
I know.
is this going to be a weird
This
week?
is one of our riskiest ones yet.
Yeah. But let's go into closing time. If you have any crazy weird beers that you've tried or want us to try, please go over to Arena Regulars on Twitter and Instagram. Tell us what those are and how we can get them for the show. We'd love to take any recommendations.
Yeah, you can also find us on MTG Arena. We'll be under the username Arena Regulars Podcast. You cannot recommend beers to us on Arena, but maybe one day.
Yeah. Ooh, that'd be nice. If you want to talk to me personally, I was going to say my name. My
name is Zach.
My name
Jeff,
is Zach.
Do you have a name?
Google me and find me. No, my handle is Zulberg. That's ZEULBERG on Twitter and Instagram. But Jeff, can they find you?
Maybe. I am known for my swift response to any Twitter messages that I receive. So probably pretty much instantaneous. You can find me on Twitter at BluesBrewsMTG, spelled like it sounds.
Yeah. Also, please leave us a review anywhere that you can leave us a review, mainly Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Go and find us wherever you are. Follow us on the whatever platform you're listening to us on, if it's Stitcher, if it's Spotify, if it's iTunes, whatever. And go to YouTube, give us a little comment, give us a like. We will be doing more videos at some point, so we'll be back. Yeah. This has been the Arena Regulars.
Reminding you that you can't come up with a good keyword for samurais. You just can't.
Good night. All right, that's fine.